Hi, this is part three. We're going to talk about soil and fertilizers and organic and microbes and all those kind of things. Now, it is possible, and this has been happening since the Second World War, to feed plants synthetic fertilizers. So nitrogen, potassium, all of those fine things. And the plants will absorb them and they will grow, but they don't form a relationship with the soil, the microbes in the soil, because they don't need to. What happens is that they'll just absorb all the nitrogen and all the nutrients that the farmers give to them, and they grow produce. And this is possible to do it hydroponically, and a lot of our salad greens are grown hydroponically. So basically, the roots sit in water, and the growers put bottled nutrients into the water, and the plants absorb them and they grow. I mean, it happens. And this is good science. And I'm not knocking it. I'm not a placard waving, banner waving. But here's the thing: the microbes in the soil are very similar to the microbes in your gut, or should be. So if you're eating low nutritious food with a low nutritious value, you're not feeding your gut. Your gut biome is also depleted because there isn't lots of the microbes that are normally inside organic food. Let's call it organic, but food grown in normal ground, so to speak. And the healthier your gut biome is, the healthier you are. Now, I may have mentioned that I thought that I looked after my immune system, but that's not true. Our microbes in our gut look after our immune system. And we have a very basic system, a vagus nerve. So we've got two nervous systems. One is, okay, that's a nervous system. We know, and we can move our hands and things. The other one is a vagus nerve, and this is basic. This is sort of primeval, sort of when we lived in water type of stuff. And what happens is if your gut is unhealthy, it affects your brain. So there's a brain-gut link through this vagus nerve. And there's scientific evidence you can go and look at under scholar.google.com about gut health and mental health. There's very, very strong links. So if you've got a healthy gut, the chances of getting depression and similar related issues drops dramatically. So if you've got a good gut, good brain. Now, plants, when they grow normally, so this is just in the ground, in the forest, okay, they produce carbohydrates from photosynthesis. And anywhere between 20 and 40% of those carbohydrates they give to the soil. Okay, now, plants don't give stuff away for free because that's hard-earned, carbohydrate. That's energy for them. And the reason that they give it to the soil is because the microbes in the soil provide food for them, because plants are terrible at feeding themselves. So they provide food for them. They also protect them against pathogens. Now, you would think that a soil microbe wouldn't protect a plant, but actually they do. And they've got images, again, you can research this, but they've got images of microbes actually grabbing hold of different types of spores and things like that so that it doesn't affect their host. Because if you imagine, this is a relationship where if the host dies, the microbes die. And now they've found actually that some of the microbes actually go inside the plant. So the plant lets microbes into it, but it also has a system where it won't let pathogens in. So bad guys it'll keep out, but good guys it'll let in. There's a chap I was listening to on a podcast, and he, an Israeli professor who studied the top inch of soil for 25 years. And in Israel, the biggest issue is water. So they were talking about mycorrhizal fungus. So this is the root system that, apparently it's the largest organism on Earth. And it's huge. So this massive mycelium, you've seen it in woods. If you kick leaves apart, you'll see that like white net. That's mycelium, or one of the types anyway. So what happens is, what they did was they inoculated this seed that they planted in a commercial field with mycelium, and then they had a field without mycelium, and they grew it. And they've been growing and studying these test plots for decades. So they knew this part of the field is dry. This part of the field doesn't have very good nutrition, and so on. So the seeds where they inoculated them and grew them, the crop was uniform. So the dry areas, fine. Poor nutrition areas, fine. On the test plot, where they didn't inoculate it, there was the expected dry areas, everything was dead. The low nutrition areas, they weren't so great. And they worked out that the mycelium actually transfers water and it transfers nutrition. So it's like, whoa, what, So it's clever. That's a relationship between the soil and microbes. And then there was another podcast I listened to, and these guys were talking about these massive redwood trees in the US. And there was one where there's a cave underneath this huge tree. And there were some roots from the tree hanging into this cave. So what they did was some students, they put dye into the tree, and they wanted to know how long it would take to get to the roots. And so obviously somebody drew the short straw, and they were in the cave and waiting at the bottom, and then they got a phone call or a radio, whatever it was, and said, right, okay, we've done it. And the students at the top went off to the pub, and they thought they were going to be there for the rest of the day. 4 minutes later, that juice was coming out. So this is not a slow process, this is a quick process. So plants are able to, allegedly plants are able to go, I need some, choose what it might be, calcium. And a message will go to the roots. The roots will exude a specific combination of food. The microbes that produce calcium will come there, release calcium for them, obviously eat the food that the root is, and then it will be taken up to where it needs calcium. Yeah, kind of clever. So that's why we want to grow organically. One of the things that happens when we water our garden from the hose pipe is that our water has got chlorine in it for a very good reason, because if we don't, it causes some problems, health problems, because bacteria can grow and, the population would struggle. The challenge we've got is that when we water that onto our garden, that kills microbes because it's chlorine. I mean, that's what it's supposed to do. It also kills our gut biome, but let's not go there. So, to carry on, the way to water plants, if you've got a greenhouse or something like that, is to have a water butt, collect rainwater. That's got no chlorine. Okay, that's the best option. The second option is to fill a dustbin or something like that with water, from the hose, and you leave it overnight, and then the chlorine dissipates overnight. So within 24 hours, it's gone, and then you can water, and you know that that's not going to be a problem. Pesticides, and this is why we don't think about this, but if you're eating food that has got pesticides on it, what happens is the pesticides are killing your gut biome. So it doesn't kill you, it doesn't harm you as such, but your gut biome is affected. And in the US, they've got the Dirty Dozen, and you can just Google that. The Dirty Dozen are the most pesticide-coated, choose what the right word is, vegetables and fruits, and it's kind of scary. There's also the Clean 15, something like that. The best ones that aren't. Avocados are one. You don't need to do much with avocados, for example. Now, in order to promote soil health, there's a couple of things you can do. So you've got a bed in your garden. What you can do is go and fetch leaf mold. Now, you don't need a lot. You don't need to go out with a JCB and Carla. No. A doggy poop bag. Just a little amount. So you go off to your local deciduous forest or wood or whatever, and you move aside the leaves, the big leaves, and underneath there is going to be this sort of black, beautiful leaf mold. Just grab a handful, much, put it in that little bag, take it home, put it into a watering can, fill the watering can up with water, and water it onto your bed. Now what you've done is taken bazillions of microbes from the local area and added it to your garden. Jadam, which is the son of Korean natural farming, he has a way of multiplying this for a commercial, or if you need more than a watering can. And basically what they do is they get potatoes, boiled potatoes, and they put them in a net bag and scoosh them all up in this 44-gallon drum or a big drum. Scoosh them all up in this net bag, put them in the bag, and then they get the same amount of leaf mold and throw it in there, and they stir it up, and the potato acts as food for because it's carbohydrate, that acts as food for all the microbes in the leaf mold, and they multiply like mad. And if you leave it, I think it's for 3 days, you start to see circles. That's when you use it. So you just now can fill up your watering can. You've got 200 liters of the stuff, and you can spray it onto your garden if you put a pump in there or whatever. Okay, so there's ways of multiplying these. Compost is another way. Compost is full of microbes and bacteria. Bokashi compost, I can touch on that in another part of this. I do it in my course, but essentially what that is you use lactobacillus in a bin, and what happens is, so you put all your household kitchen waste into there, sprinkle on some inoculated bran with lactobacillus, and then keep doing that. And it's an anaerobic environment, so basically there's a lid on it. It's not open, so it doesn't smell. It's got an aroma, but it doesn't stink. And what happens is the lactobacillus turns your kitchen waste into essentially sauerkraut. And I do this on one of my courses, and basically we take that, and I get a bucket, and I put a third of soil at the bottom, this household waste, and a third of soil at the top. And the first time I did it, I thought something had eaten it, because in 2 weeks I tipped it out and there was nothing. I was like, have I got mice and rats or something that are eating it? No, I did it again, same thing. Decomposes very, very quickly. And worms, that I'm going to touch on next, love it. So worms, you can buy worms. There's 3 types of worms. One type live above ground. The rest of them live below ground. And the one above ground, tiger worms, I think they're called, you can make a worm bin, and that's the ones that you use for a worm bin. And then they munch up all this stuff, and all they poop. So they eat microbes, but they poop more microbes because their gut biome is filled with other things. So worms are, honestly, the Egyptians actually called them a deity, or, they were sacred. Anyway, so you can make compost teas. Now again, there's all kinds of aeration and this and that. It's like everything else. You can just go completely berserk. The easiest way to do this, get a watering can, in a net, put some compost, pour water through that net into your watering can, water it onto the garden. Job done. You can use vermicompost, which is that worm manure. You can buy it online, and they send it to you in a bag, and you put that into a bag, water through that into your watering can, water it onto the garden. Unbelievable. Now my folks have got a garden in a modern housing estate, and basically their garden consists of rubble. And they've tried to grow vegetables, and it's been dreadful. I mean, they've got, really, it's horrid. So I got them some compost, but I got them a couple of bags of this vermicompost, chalk and cheese. It makes huge, huge, huge difference. It's amazing. The next thing you can do is not dig. So people say, no dig. Now, has anybody explained why no dig is so good? Essentially what it is, we're going back into the wild where man hasn't been. You got a tree, things fall on the ground, or animals die, or whatever, on the surface. There's microbes at the top that deal with that. Those microbes, the life cycle is quite short, so they die, but they also pass stuff further down the food chain because rain comes through. So the next layer of microbes deal with the leftover bits, and it goes on until we get to rock. Now we've got microbes that actually break down rock, and the converse happens. So now all the minerals start going up, okay? What do we do when we plow? We invert their world, okay? Same with digging, double digging, all that kind of stuff. What you do is you dig it up, turn that sod upside down. Now the guys at the top are at the bottom. Not all of them survive, okay? So digging is not great. And then I get asked, what about potatoes? I've got to dig them out. We're just talking about minimal digging. So, there's people that double dig every year. It's like, besides breaking your back and being unpleasant, and don't do it. If you use raised beds, what happens is that you're not bending down so far. That's the first thing. You can get rid of all of your big tools, so spades and forks and all. Not quite, but you know what I mean. You're not digging. And now, weeding, you're working with a friable, soft surface, so you can just pull a weed out. You're not getting so much easier. Raised beds are so much easier. So, we've now added various bits and bobs. Now, there's other things you can do. So when you boil potatoes, okay, the carbohydrate, don't add salt. Okay, boil the potatoes and then drain that water into a container. Let it cool down to room temperature, to ambient temperature, and water that onto your garden. Microbes boom in that they just go berserk. And as a result, your plants improve. The next thing is that when you boil eggs, again, no salt. When you boil eggs, that there's some calcium in that water, and you can pour that onto the soil. Put it into your watering can, let it cool down to ambient temperature, and water it into your garden. So you'll be surprised. You don't want to put, some people say, what about pasta and things? Yeah, you can. I mean, it's a carbohydrate, but what you don't want to do is have too much, because don't forget you'll have mold growing on the top of your soil now. What else can you, folks say, what you do is you crush up eggshells and put them on soil. Now, that stops slugs. In my experience, that does nothing. It does eventually break down. So if you imagine a microbe is now breaking down calcium carbonate, which is a stone, let's not kid ourselves, that's a stone, into calcium that's plant available. Now, with Korean natural farming, what you do is you get a jar and you put the eggshells into those. Now, there's different ways of doing it. Some folk just bake them slightly in a 115 or 120 degree oven, and then the little membrane inside the egg, you can just blow that away, and I don't. I just dry the eggs on top of we got an agar, I'm sorry, and we put the eggs on top of that. They just dry. I crunch them up, put them into a jar, and fill it up with El Cheapo distilled vinegar. Either malt or distilled, it's irrelevant. It's acetic acid. And so what happens is it's like Vesuvius. Kids love this because there's bubbles, and big kids love it too. But anyway, be careful that you don't put too much egg and too much vinegar, because it literally goes over the kitchen counter. I've done it. So I normally have about, in a jar, big, I have about that much eggshell, and then I'll fill it half with vinegar, and then just keep topping it up every so often. And after about 2 weeks, it stops bubbling. That vinegar that was you put in there is not vinegar anymore. It's water. Okay? The calcium carbonate that has reacted with the acetic acid, the vinegar, has turned into calcium acetate. Okay? So if you pour that, strain that out, now you've got a liquid. Okay? That's calcium acetate. And that is plant available calcium. So you can spray it on tomatoes and you stop blossom end rot. So sometimes tomatoes go black at the end. That's a lack of calcium. All plants need calcium for cell growth. All their cell walls and stuff. So you can, what I do is in my water butt, and I've got 1,000 liter, one of those big square tanks. I pour that much in, and that's calcium. And then that just gets sprayed. If you want to add minerals, you can use Dead Sea salt. Now, in 1,000 liters, okay, so don't use a lot of this. Less is more. In 1,000 liters, I'm adding a tablespoon, okay, of Dead Sea salt. And I get that from the pound B&M type shops, and it's sold as a bath thing, and it's a couple of quid for a big kg thing of that. In a watering can, you're putting like a pinch, that much, just a pinch in there every so often, because that's going to provide, the Dead Sea salt has got so many micro minerals, all the stuff that we would never even think about, borons and that and all those other things. If you want magnesium in the plants, and plants need magnesium, we need magnesium, same, go back to the B&M and buy Epsom salts. That's magnesium sulfate. And don't get the flavored one, just the plain old Epsom salts, okay? Same quantity. Pinch into a watering can, or I put a tablespoon into 1,000 liters. So now I've got calcium, magnesium, and all the micro minerals I'll ever need. And I don't have to think about it, okay? Um, and that's basically what I do for minerals and making that soil so much healthier. By not digging it is probably the biggest change you can make. Now I'm going to talk about extending the season. So we talked about the first frost. Now we're talking about the last frost. So the last frost here comes pretty quick, and you can extend that by using a fleece. We've already talked about putting a fleece over stuff to stop frost. You can use a fleece. You can use a cloche, which is just like a mini cold frame, and that could be a milk bottle. Again, you got to worry about watering, but yeah, that's possible. Windowsills, you can bring plants inside. You can use polytunnels, but as in my experience, inside and outside temperatures inside a polytunnel at night are the same. So that's how I would extend the season. Now, I'm going to touch on microgreens. Microgreens are super healthy and very easy to grow. If you get the seed from either the Asian shops and so on, in the supermarket, so you're not buying actual seed from a seed merchant, you're buying spices or things that you would grind up. Now, not all of them are going to be fertile. There was somebody who was talking about growing blueberries in the US, okay? And they said, don't buy blueberries that are imported from South America. And I was like, why not? And it was like, oh, all the produce is irradiated before it comes into the country. So this is the US. And this may be out of date, but that kind of horrified me a little. So I use things that the types of things you can use are cress. The in-seed packets, they're not too bad. Peas, coriander, chickpea, kale, cabbage, rocket, beetroot, broccoli, basil, dill, and fennel, to name a few. So you can collect seed from your own plants. So there's 3 types of plants. You've got annuals, which is like corn. So it grows, makes seeds, dies. Done. In a year. Okay, that's a pumpkin is another one. Grows, makes a pumpkin, seeds inside, done. 1 year. Then you get biennials. Now most of our vegetables are biennials. So cabbages, carrots, beetroot, choose. We pick them in the first year. So if we take a beetroot, so it grows into a beetroot and we eat it in the first year. If you want to collect seed, you leave that, or you can actually take it out and store it and then plant it again next year, the whole big root. And then it will produce a flower and then have seeds, and you'll collect the seeds in the autumn. So it actually takes 2 full years. If you want to do microgreens, that's a super cheap way of collecting seed. So what happens, you can do carrots, you can do fennel, dill, fennel's an annual. Dill, you can do, that's a perennial. Some of them, fennels or dills are perennials, one of them are, I can't remember. All of your broccolis, cabbages, all of those things, leave them till the next year. They come up with big, beautiful flowers. The bees love them. You can collect the flowers. They end up with like little long seed pods. Let them get crisp, dry. And then what I do is I cut the seed pods off before they start breaking, because otherwise you're going to have lots of them growing in your garden. Cut them off, put them in a paper bag and hang them upside down. You know, in a relatively dry place. Some sheds are drier than others, you know what I mean. And then now you've got handfuls of seed. Rocket is another one. Boy, oh boy, you can get so much seed from rocket. There's another microgreen. And basically what you do for microgreens is you put the paper towel down, moisten it, put the seed on, and then scoosh it. And then you end up, by the time they got the third set of leaves, that's when you cut them and eat them. So next part is square foot gardening, and we're going to go through that. It makes gardening kind of formulaic, much easier. You know, you've got a square foot, what can I grow in a square foot? So I'm going to stop rambling and I'll catch up with you later.